Good morning, and thank you so much for tuning into WSMV Plus. I am Danielle Ledbetter. Now, back in January, we told you all that a historic Nashville restaurant would be closing its doors after nearly 6 decades in business. So let's take a look at some of that video from back in January. This is Mary's Old Fashioned Pit Barbecue. It was on Jefferson Street in the historic African American Business District. It was opened by Mary Sills in 1962. You can see that on the screen right there. She was often referred to as Miss Mary or Mama Mary to those who knew her the best. Now, people in January, they of course were sad to see this restaurant go.
Mary's has been around a mighty long time. I grew up with Mary's barbecue being here. It's sad to see her go, but I mean, she was a staple of Nashville.
And so at that time, we did not know what was next for the restaurant on Jefferson Street, but now we know Mount Zion Baptist Church has acquired the property. So this morning, I am joined by the church's pastor, Bishop Joseph Walker III, to talk about this acquisition. So first of all, I want to thank you for coming on and talking to us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so the first question I want to start off about, when you guys first learned that this property would become available, what about it made you guys want to put your name in the hat for it?
Yeah, well, we heard about it actually when it was posted in the paper, and a great article was written about it. And of course, we at that moment realized for us that it was important for us to put our head in, because our name in the hat, because the acquisition would mean so much for the preservation of the history in our community. With all the gentrification that's happening, and it's positive, it was important that we really invested into the community even more, as Mount Zion has done over the years. And so we felt it was important for the larger vision of our church for us to acquire it, because it would allow us to really have ownership of that entire block at 11 and 12 Jefferson.
And Mount Zion has had a presence on Jefferson Street for quite some time. So talk about why it was important to the church to expand its presence there on Jefferson Street.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mount Zion founded in 1866, and of course, Mount Zion has been a staple in that community throughout the incredible history of Jefferson Street. And obviously, with Mary's and Mount Zion, the relationship, I often joke about the fact when I first became pastor, people would line up coming into church, but then they'd line up going to Mary's, and you couldn't tell which line was for which. It was amazing. Relationship was just so strong. She was always supportive of Mount Zion. Her children and her family has always been very supportive. And so, for us, it's about making a real substantial investment in the future of North Nashville, the preservation of the history, telling those stories about those entrepreneurs who were African American, who were really doing great work even before it was popular, who was doing it and serving the community. As you know, Jefferson Street has a storied history of a variety of different businesses up and down that corridor that were doing extraordinary things. So for us, to be able to acquire that property, keeping those dollars in that community, and also repurposing that building initially to do things that are going to benefit that community, to us, it was a no-brainer.
And we'll get into some of those things that in the vision for the property in a second, but talk to us about the process of acquiring it. You guys had quite a fight trying to get it.
Oh, yeah. It was a coveted piece of property. Anything that comes available on Jefferson Street, is obviously a very coveted piece of property. An out-of-town investor and Mount Zion were the two left standing. And the out-of-town investor was aggressively wanting that property. And we were just as aggressively trying to make certain that Mount Zion acquired it. And I'm grateful for the support of the Mount Zion Church in its generosity and its understanding of investment into the community, that we were able to position ourselves to make an offer that the owners could not turn down. And ultimately, we won the bid after a lot of back and forth, and we're very grateful for that. But it was a long process, an arduous process, going back and forth through the negotiations, but it actually turned out in our favor. So we're very grateful for that.
And then, so can you walk us through, I know a lot of people are wondering, what will that piece of land turn into? Can you walk us through kind of what is your vision for it?
Yeah, well, so if you think about Mount Zion, Jefferson Street, and across the street, there's a huge parking lot and et cetera. And we have a vision to build a dream center, which we'll be rolling out, over the next few months in terms of what that may actually look like. We've had several different, revisions of that because the community continues to change. But however, initially, what Mary's would allow us to do is to obviously give us some relief in terms of our parking, but more importantly, what it helps us do is to actually centralize our outreach efforts. And so now, with all the great outreach that Mount Zion does between all 3 and 4 locations, now we're able to centralize it in 37208, and we're able to then bring along partners to come with us to help us meet the needs of those communities, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's clothing, whether it's other services. We're going to be doing this consistently. So this place that fed families for years now will not only feed the homeless and feed people who are underserved in their community, but also provide needed resources for them that will be something that will benefit them for days to come.
And that kind of segues perfectly into my next question, because I wanted to ask, how do you hope this project will impact the next generation of people born on Jefferson Street, growing up there right now?
Yeah, it is our hope that the generations will see that, the faith community, people who gathered together, they were on one accord, they came together and they made significant investments to assure that dollar circulated within our community to build up our community. And they're able to understand that even if you go off to college or you do what you do and you're successful, it is always important never to forget, the places that make you who you are. Jefferson Street is the heartbeat of the African American community. And though Mount Zion is, Edo Hickory and in Antioch and in Brentwood, the heartbeat of our ministry, Ground Zero, started right there in 37208.
And then my last question for you, why did you guys feel it was so important to preserve this cultural hub of sorts, if you will?
Yeah, the preservation of, the preservation of Mary's is really important to us. I think these stories need to be told, and we plan on continuing to tell it. We are even thinking through how to incorporate that history into what we do in the future of the Dream Center, in mural or in terms of just memorializing that. Because when people see the growth and see the expansion and innovation of the future, they also should be able to point back and say, wow, on this spot this is what this spot used to do. And now look at what has happened, and it has gone from generation to generation, and it has evolved into doing things that still benefit this community. So I think it's important to continue to share those stories.
Yeah, well, thank you so much again for talking to us about it. We're excited to see it all come to fruition and see how it all works. And thank you also for watching. We appreciate that. Now, if you missed any of this conversation, you can go back and watch this in our WSMV4 News app and on our website. That's WSMV.com. Thanks.